Yeah, Akil, good evening.
Good evening, Vijetha.
All good?
All good, yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. And six o'clock on the dot. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Jagat.
Very good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. So, good evening to our audience. Thank you, Jayesh, for joining in. 6:01. So, Jagat and Akil, should we start off?
Yes, sure. Really, thanks, to the audience, all of you joining us now, joining us later on Facebook, YouTube. I'm really happy. Sometimes, and one of the things this morning, I was just going for a walk, and I was really happy when one of the people, in my neighborhood said, "Jagat, really nice sessions. We really enjoy what you do," and I think that's really heartening. Uh, Obviously, it's viewers and kind of collaboration with the community, right? That's a lot more fun for us as well. It's not just one way kind of knowledge. This Startup Sunday, always the theme has been for people to come together and share knowledge. Some of the other sessions may be more one way traffic, but that's the whole thing here, right? Like I get to learn about Akil's talking to us today about WebSockets, Vijetha about business models. So I think all of us are learning also. So even to the viewers, I think Jayesh is here with us. Some people on Facebook also. So feel free to come in later, raise hand, and participate and share your thoughts as well. So I think Vijitha, I mean, shall we do it this way? I mean, I think first Akil can go because I think his is the technical topic, and then after that maybe your thoughts, and then maybe my late on the end I can just go in with some small inputs. Yeah. Thanks so much, Akil. Looking forward to your session. Over
Yes.
to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll just get it set up. Just 1 second.
Sure. So Akil's talking to us today about a very, very interesting topic, uh, something to do with WebSockets, and one of the fundamentals today is the chat applications, right? You see real-time applications, and that's really what's changed the game today, right? Before it was not so real-time. Today, the chat apps make communication very real-time, and that's really the focus today of Akil's talk. Hi, Jayesh. Really glad to have you with us. Little intro if you can provide on the chat, that would be fantastic. And feel free to get some friends in as well. Hi, Ram. Glad to have you with us. Really good. Feel free to introduce yourself on the comments, and there's also a private chat where you can chat with individual people. Feel free to network. It's Sunday evening, so this topic again, as Akil is gonna now. Akil, are you ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, over to you then. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just setting up the link. Just 1 second. Screen sharing now.
Yes, audience may click on Akil's screen to full screen it. Yeah, thank you.
So welcome to the 7th episode of FullStack 2020, where we're going to tackle something that I find really interesting. So real-time communications, and this is going to more talk about WebSockets specifically. So from the audience, if I could have a little bit, I'll change it up a little bit. So what event or what thing is most important to you? So what information do you need in real time as much as possible? So I'll give an example. Like for a stockbroker, he needs to know the stock prices, the change in stock prices immediately, because if his competitor knows about the stock price slightly earlier, then he gets a slight advantage over another. So if I could have some suggestions from the audience on things that you would like to know about immediately, any updates, any data that has to be real time. Yes, so I'm getting an offer or a sale, and then a customer interaction or a price query of price query of customer. Sure. So first, I'll walk you through a small demo of a chat app. So this is just running a simple node server on my local computer, and now if I go to localhost 3000 where it's running. It'll ask me for my name. So I can enter, and now you can see that there's one participant, that is the one that's just joined. And now if I just duplicate this tab, this is another session. So I'll put now there's two people online, and this user's name test. You can see that it gets a notification that ABC is joined, and then you can send messages to and fro. And if I also minimize the screen, you can also see when they're typing. You can see right over here, you can see ABC is typing. So this is an example of real-time communication, wherein it's not based on request response, wherein the browser sends a request, wherein the client sends a request directly to the server, and then the server just sends back a response. In this, either the server sends out communication or the client does it asynchronously. So when you want to fetch data from the server, normally you use the AJAX, which is asynchronous JavaScript, or the fetch API, which is a newer version, wherein you send a request and then you get a response back. So the computer or a browser will send a request. The HTTP request will hit your server. The server will do processing or get the data and then return back the data response. This normally occurs within a second, so a few milliseconds. Depending on the type of operation that the server performs, can take longer. Now, what if we need to update data frequently? Like suppose there's a new offer that you want to show instantly. You could repeat the same request response periodically. So say if you say if you want to you have an offer, and then you on the client, you don't know whether there's a new offer that's been put up on the site. So every, say, 10 seconds, you could keep on checking the server whether there's a new offer. So every 10 seconds you'll send a request. Is there a new offer? No. Is there a new offer? No. So this is what's called short polling, and this was done in the early days of the internet, and this was quite resource intensive, because you're sending hundreds and thousands of requests even when there's no data to be updated. So the next evolution of that is something called long polling, where the difference is you still send a request every X number of seconds, but the server will not reply back immediately. So in short polling, you send a request, no data, and then the server immediately sends a request, reply, no data. In long polling, the server will get a request saying that ask from the client asking if there's any update. The server will hold that request for a short amount of time. It's configurable. Generally, they keep it around 30 seconds ish. And then if there's no data in that time, it'll reply with no data. Otherwise, it'll reply with the updated data. So long polling also has a few drawbacks, which I'll mention a little later. So one thing that we could do to overcome polling is having a persistent connection. So what is a persistent connection? It's a connection that's always maintained between you, the client, and the server. There's something called SSE, so server-side events, which is also called server push, which maintains a persistent connection between you and the client, but it's unidirectional. So it's one-way communication only from the server to the client. So in our chat app, for example, suppose someone sends a message, the client will have to send that message through a normal request response message. And then whenever the server gets a new message, it will immediately send that message back to the client. Now we discussed three methods: polling, long polling, and server-side events. So in polling, you can see that periodically you define the interval, and then you send a request to the server, no response. Wait, then you wait for the next however much time between the requests, and then again try, again wait. In long polling, so the server will wait, will hold that request and then reply back if it times out or if there's a new data available. So this line indicates new data available. And then server side events, there's a persistent connection. So there's be an initial setup. So this is the initial setup, if you can see my cursor here. And then when there's new data, the server will emit an event. Now, what are the drawbacks of the three methods that we just now discussed? They're not real time enough. So suppose for a stockbroker, for example, if you really need to know when the price of a stock has changed, you might, in the short polling example, you have to wait for, suppose you query every 10 seconds, you might get data that is 10 seconds old. In SSE, which is server-side events, the disadvantages, the data is relatively real time, but the three main disadvantages: you you cannot detect when a client is disconnected. So suppose a client is disconnected, you will not know. So in our chat example, which I showed in the beginning, you could see that user is typing, etc. It will still send those events to the user even though he's long gone. So that wastes resources. And also, suppose like this video conference, for example, uh, whenever someone leaves, you ideally want the video also to be. Suppose the user lost internet, or he lost power and his laptop shut down. You ideally want his video to be removed off relatively quickly. But in server-side events, you will not be able to detect that connection. And also, the browsers like Chrome have a limit of 6 connections that are allowed in the browser. So suppose a person has 7 tabs, and then all 7 tabs use SSE for their updating of for getting real-time data. Then one tab will not be able to work. And this might not seem like a concern, but there are many people who keep 10, 20, etc. tabs open and never close the tab. So that will be a big problem with them. And then it doesn't have binary support. So this is text data, and then binary data is like images, etc. Now let's look at WebSockets. WebSockets is a thin, lightweight layer about TCP. TCP is Transmission Control Protocol, which is internet protocol, which is a reliable internet protocol for transmitting data. It provides a bidirectional communication wherein both the client and the server. So the server, anytime the server wants to send data, can just send the data. Anytime the client wants to send the data, we can just send the data. And it can supports both text and binary data. So this is how a WebSocket is created. So first you have a normal request response connection, and then the server will send a upgrade request. Once the upgrade request is negotiated, so the server will send a request to the client. The client will saying that I want to upgrade this HTTP request to a WebSocket connection. Once they both agree, you will get a persistent connection. And until one side closes it, that connection or external factor like he loses internet, any external factor like that happens, the connection will be open and persistent, and then either side can send and receive data. Now, what are the advantages of WebSockets? So it's bidirectional. It's really real time. So you can send and receive data immediately. Anytime there's an update, the server can immediately send the data to the client, and anytime the client can similarly send the data to the server. There's less overhead. So an HTTP request is about 2,000 bytes of overhead, where a WebSocket is only 2 bytes. So there's a 1,000x difference between them, and it has binary data support. What are the disadvantages? There's no caching support. So in HTTP, a lot of times you might have seen this where someone has maybe updated their website, maybe a CSS or something like that, and then you open the website and you're still seeing an old version. That's called caching. So there's no, the disadvantage of caching is you might be seeing old data, but the advantage of caching is you don't have to hit the server every time. Your browser in many cases might cache the data. So with caching, your server can handle many more requests. But there's no caching support in WebSockets. And then WebSockets is a little more complex than HTTP. And then it's affected by fluctuating networks. And if you change your network, like suppose you are on a mobile and you change your connection from a 4G to a Wi-Fi, then the WebSocket gets cut and you have to recreate it. And it's heavier on the server. So since it's a persistent connection, your server can handle fewer socket requests than HTTP requests, and then load balancing is more complex. So load balancing. So suppose you have one server, you can handle as many requests as one server can handle. But if you have multiple servers, you can put something in front called a load balancer, which will dynamically send each incoming request to the least loaded server or the different algorithms. So since in WebSockets the client is connected to that particular server, it's a little more complex to load balance it. Now let's look at the WebSocket API. It's quite a simple API. So you create a new WebSocket connection by passing. This is in the browser. So it already has inbuilt support for WebSocket. So you call new WebSocket, and then you pass in the URI of the WebSocket server, and then you get a bunch of callbacks. You'll get whenever the connection is open, you'll code this part will be executed. When the connection is closed, this part will be executed. Any error is there, this part will be executed. And anytime a message is received by you from the server, this part is there. And then if you want to send data, you just call the send method, and then you send data to the server from the client. Similarly, the server side is also quite simple. So I'm using a library called WS. For different languages, there are different libraries. WS is one of the most simple ones. So you create a reference to the object, and then you mention the URL, and then similarly you get all the callbacks. So when the message is received, when the client is closed, when the client is open, etc. Now let's talk about socket.io. Socket.io is a library which is a kind of like a wrapper, a wrapper is nothing but a small thing that is on top of your existing package. So it's a small wrapper on top of WebSockets and also long polling. So what it does is it enables real-time bidirectional event-based communication. It has both a client and a server-side component. There are different libraries for both for clients and for servers, and then also for it supports multiple languages, Python, PHP, etc. And one of the good things about Socket.io is that it has a fallback to long polling. So in many of these corporate networks, they explicitly block WebSockets. In those cases, you can't use WebSockets. So whenever that occurs, Socket.io will automatically use a long polling. Now let's look at the features of Socket.io. It's reliable. So as just mentioned, it will fall back to long polling when a WebSocket when a WebSocket connection cannot be created. It has automatic reconnection. So suppose you're switching network, etc., it will automatically reconnect as soon as possible. It has the way it works is whenever it disconnects, it will automatically retry to connect exponentially. So first we'll try maybe 200 milliseconds, the next time we'll try 400 milliseconds, the next attempt will be after 600 milliseconds, etc. Then it has packet buffering. So what that means is whenever you lose a connection, so whenever your socket is disconnected, Socket.io will keep all your data that's going to be sent in a buffer, and then when you reconnect, you can immediately send out all those pending packets as well. Then acknowledgements, that's basically to mention whether your data that you have sent has been received by the either component. So if you're sending from the client, whether the server has received it, whether the sending from the server, whether the client has received it. And broadcasting, so it has something called rooms. So you can logically group a set of clients, and then with one call you can send to all the clients, all of those clients in that logical room. And then multiplexing, so you can share one connection can share different namespaces. So you can have one for say for streaming. You can so for a stockbroker you can have one connection. With one connection you can divide that connection for one connection for like stock updates, one connection for like authentication type stuff, another connection for anything else. Now let's look at the Socket.io API. It's very similar to the WebSocket API that was shown earlier, where you create a reference and then you have these callbacks, and then you hit send, and then the message gets sent. Hit emit, and then the message gets emitted from the client or from the server to the other side. And then you can also have callbacks for distinct messages. So you can have whenever you receive a greeting message, you can do this. Whenever you receive another type of message, you can do that, etc. This is the client side and this is the server side. It's very similar to normal WebSockets, the API. Now this code is for going through the client, going through the the chat application that I just demoed at the beginning of this webinar. So this is the client side. So there's lots of code here, but I just want you to concentrate on two lines. So we're just creating a reference to the socket library here, and then once the user types in his email, types in his username, we just send that to the server. And then whenever any event happens from the server, we just list a bunch of listeners. So when there's a new message, we call the add a new chat message to add that new chat message. Whenever a new user joined, we call that respective method, etc. So when the user's typing, the user stop typing, etc. And then the server is similarly quite simple. So basically, you have most of these features is just most of these methods is just to broadcast the messages. So whenever a user's typing, you get that message and then send it to everyone except that user. So suppose someone is typing, you want everyone in that particular room to receive that message except the user who sent that message. So that's what this is basically does. So thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
That was really interesting session, Akil. I think really good that it was a fairly technical session. I think when you look at sockets, and I've always, as you know, since the time we started, I think our whole journey also kind of started off with real-time or socket-driven stuff, right? Peer-to-peer communications.
Yes.
Really awesome, really nice. I mean, any of the viewers, any questions, any doubts, feel free to kind of to ask Akil. One of the benefits of chat, and as we see more in the future, when you look at even IoT and other kind of contexts, you will see this need for real-time information exchange and communication.
Yes.
Right. And so any other kind of thoughts, Akil? I mean, what are some more things that the audience or people can get started with? Maybe video chat. Of course, we do video chat, so
yes,
it's very close. We also use sockets, in fairly in a big way, right?
Yeah, it's similar. So socket.io uses TCP sockets, which is transport control protocol, wherein it's reliable protocol. So every time you send a message, you get an acknowledgement, and so suppose you have a lossy network or a slightly bad network, the other side will wait for you to receive or to resend that packet until until it gets that packet, it'll now process the next packet. So that's a bit of a problem. So in WebRTC is what we use. It uses UDP, which is unreliable protocol. So suppose you receive some messages out of place, or you don't receive message at all, it will drop that particular packet and still continue with the rest of it.
I think as we look at things going forward, these edge cases and areas where the network fails, and
yes,
these things get solved over time. So I think some of it only we can control. And when you build, let's say, software apps, you really can't control what is the hardware of that user, or in what network he is, or things like this. So there are only some things that can be controlled by certain organizations. And I think it really depends on the macro also, right? How things evolve. When you look at it, 2016, 17, we were really struggling with 3G, right? There was no 4G. Yes. And how do you do video chat with 3G? It's quite hard. Of course, there were also cases. There were some. I was working, but it was really bad. And then we can't solve 4G, right? We can only solve, let's say, video chat or software. And then you had the Ambanis of the world and everybody else come into 4G. So I think that's really good. So I think overall, I think things are going to get only a lot more real time. Business is going to happen real time. That's the whole idea here, right? It's not only about a chat app, but it's about how your website also needs to become a lot more real time. Typically, people build a website and that contact form is there, and I don't know how many inquiries actually come through, right?
Yes.
uh, and the numbers are pretty low. The conversions are even worse. So I think you put a live chat widget there. Vidphone, we also have a live chat widget along with other players, right? So you have Intercom, you have Zendesk, so you have a lot of players who enable real time onto a website. So
Yes.
that's a direct kind of, what do you call, implementation of this chat feature into your website where you can generate more business. So great session. I think, is Vijetha with us? Vijetha, you want to? I think Vijetha is going to talk to us about business models
Yes.
and around. I think he's been doing a lot of wonderful sessions. Along the lines of buyer personas, relationship selling. So I think these are really the not only the buzzwords, but I think these are the methodologies of sales today and going forward. So, Chief, over to you. Looking forward to your views and your insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagat, and of course, Akhil. Very, very nice session. So let me, as always, it'll be crisp,
Thank
and
you.
I will move quicker. So take the screenshots, and of course, thanks to Akhil and Jagat, this will be available on the Vidphone platforms for viewing later. Okay, so I'm just going ahead. Okay, so starting with this, one of our good friends, Anmol, who runs his own company and a sales company, he was saying, right, as entrepreneurs, please get into sales. You all must be with your customers. You all must figure out how you can build the trust and make a very strong relationship. And that's what it's all about, right? Even what Vidphone is doing, what we at TIE Bangalore doing is bring people together so that we can ensure that in confidence, great communications, and we really, really build the relationship well with the customer. Not just about outbound, but having great email templates, making sure that you have beautiful videos and playbooks and remote sales, right? Jagat, this is what it's all about: the virtual HQ, remote sales, the remote CEO, and making sure that you're delighting the customers, engaging with the customers regularly. That's important. E-commerce is going to grow. So many of you startup founders, please look at how you all can crack this. There's a lot of things happening with Reliance, Tata's acquisitions in pharmacy, in social commerce. But it's not just about the big players. What can you as a founder and entrepreneur do? Online, just look at the way it is growing, right? The population is growing, mobile phone connections are growing, internet users are growing. Because of this lockdown, you have to do remote sales globally. How can you do that? How can you create beautiful landing pages, create great templates, keep doing these kind of webinars, participate in such kind of webinars, work with people like Jagat, and to figure out how you can create great content, be a thought leader, and this is how we can grow. Product videos, product sheets, looking at case studies, getting testimonials, help to create wonderful blog posts and white papers. And that is why the customer is going to like engaging with you and they'll feel comfortable with you. The sales process, prospecting, discovery, demonstration, objections, handling anything that will come in the way of closing the deal. That's what the sales playbook is all about. Of course, doesn't stop that fact that as a founder, entrepreneur, you must be doing the sales. But as you grow and as you build your marketing team, as you build onboarding and you make sure that you have a great accessible playbook and training going on, that's how you will grow. CRMs, even the Google Drive or Asana, which Jagat, I know you keep propagating, are great technology tools. But what can we do beyond this? Make people comfortable, engage with the right people, make them discover you, gain an agreement, make sure that they know they're aware of what you can offer, how you can solve their pain points. Marketing, business development, and sales, they do coexist. As an entrepreneur, as the founder, please make sure that you also pay attention to your website, to your blogs, to your videos, to your explainer videos, creating very nice newsletters. I think that's important. Do not ever negotiate with someone else to do this till you crack it. Okay, founder is the heart and soul of the organization. Live and breathe your brand. Something that is very close to my heart is, guys, don't get into a red ocean where you're fighting battles which will bleed you by 1,000 cuts. Okay, look at a blue ocean. Figure out what are the uncontested market spaces. How can you create and capture new demand? I think that's what really matters. You cannot compete only on price. You have to figure out your differentiation. And yes, asking questions, being a thought leader, being a trusted resource means you can close faster and you can do better. Okay, this is not just gyan. I think one must figure out how to do this very carefully, very properly, and build. Now I will go into, Jagat, with your permission, of course. I'm just going into the startup ecosystem updates.
Definitely, sir.
We'll take in questions from everyone later, but I just want to get moving on this.
Sure.
All right. So what are the various things that are happening? We are having a very nice open mic on 15th of June with 4 other Thai chapters. This is but only for women co-founders. I'll explain a little bit more. We also have a very nice session on the 18th of June, Jagat, about for globalization. The NetApp, who's a partner of Thai Bangalore, they're doing some very beautiful session. Of course, pay attention next to all the things that are happening. And of course, we are also working with the Startup Karnataka. We're working with the government of Karnataka, with the K-Tech Innovation Hub. Many programs, especially around health tech, agri-tech, food tech, biotech, medtech. If you want to raise funds, apply. This is something that you can please take a screenshot. And of course, it's all available on our various websites, Twitter handles, etc., etc. So just breaking it down, 15th of June, open mic. We of course have the wellness sessions. We have business mentoring sessions every day going on at 6 o'clock, and you all must all join in. Jagat, you as a Time member have been part of it. We want to give support, we want to give value, and also this is an opportunity for networking for all you founders. So please land up, discuss, be part of the conversations. 18th of June with the NetApp leaders on going global by design. Right? Not just say, okay, one day you wake up and say, I want to start expanding all across the world. By design, from the beginning, you figure out how you can go global. And about Startup Karnataka, Derby Foundation, and the various people are coming together to ensure that we can give funding and help the startups to grow. As I said, it's about the Thai Women Entrepreneur Program. Please, it is for the Thai Bank from Thai Bangalore, Karnataka registered early and late stage startups. Please apply. It is there on our website. It's there on all our handles. Please don't miss it out. There are some fantastic programs by Bosch, by Flipkart, by IITB, by Startup Karnataka, Social Alpha, and many others. Unicorn India Ventures also is coming together. All these details again are there. We have been sharing this. Everything around perfect startup pitches, how to grow, how to get funding, and there are prizes to be won. So please, again, the request is follow up, look at all the things that we are sharing. Jagat, of course, you are very active, or even on the NASCOM communities. There's much happening out there also. I think on retail tech also there are some programs. Take advantage of these things, guys. We are very active on the IoT forum, and as you can see, we have multiple verticals and horizontals. We are working along whether it is on IoT, connected vehicles, manufacturing, agri-tech, plenty of activities. We're doing a lot of events, we're doing a lot of meetups. Take advantage of this again and interact with the volunteers, interact with the forum leaders, the special interest groups, because we want to create opportunity for all you partners to come together, for all the startups to come together, the investors to come together, interact, build your partnerships, build your connections, engage, grow. That's all that we want to talk about. And of course, stay connected for community updates. This is a screenshot that you can take. You can follow me on Vijetha Shastry. Of course, fantastic work, Jagat and team. You guys are also doing to bring out a lot of information into the ecosystem and community. And this is something that we want to do to help all you wonderful startups. Okay. So what I will be doing is I'm going to stop presenting now. Jagat, I also, of course, have some information around the playbooks. I have some things around the business model canvas, but let us do this after you take over. You want to talk about a virtual HQ, you want to talk about virtual engagement, remote CEO, and then I will come back. So now it's over to you, Jagat. Go ahead.
Perfect. That was wonderful. Really good to see. And, I think so many sessions and events, right? I think I just realized that we have Father's Day coming up sometime soon. That's an important one for us. I think let's see if we can get something going. So something for the men as well, right? Father's Day. So anyway, so really happy today. I'm sharing something little different. This is to do with the remote lifestyle, right? It's not about, of course, we've spoken a lot about remote sales. We've spoken about the virtual office, But I think what's important today is to understand uh, people have not been used to this remote lifestyle, right? Ever since you had the dawn of industry, or factories, people had the you had to actually go to this office, or go to a factory, right? And that was really what we can call like the factory economy. Uh, Really, that's how it started. If you go farther back, you'll see that a lot of times people worked around where they lived. So even if you see a local kirana store here in India, or a small shop, many times you'll find that grocer is actually having his storefront in the front, and there's a curtain, and then behind that they actually stay there. So the work-life balance they're able to maintain, but unfortunately, many people are struggling to do that. So I think it's important for us to understand this remote lifestyle. I'll just share my screen. I have a small mind map that I actually want to run through. Uh, I hope my screen is visible. People may,
Yes.
viewers, please, click on the screen to click on my video to full screen it. We're talking today about 7 benefits of the remote lifestyle. Of course, I could go on to probably have 10, but I tried to keep it 7, maybe one day a week or something like that. So today we're going to cover a few things. Let me just kind of focus it on the children part. So today we'll have this three-tiered approach, right? First, I'll be talking about the context, the rise of remote work and why it's relevant. Then I will get to the benefits, and then I'll get to how can one actually adopt this remote lifestyle, right? So first, let me look at the context. So really, we've seen that 2020 was the first time remote work became a phenomenon, right? You had, along with remote work, video conferencing, video meetings. These two themes, I think, really took over the whole world. And if you look at the real reason, yes, a lot of people are saying that the the pandemic, or COVID-19 was the chief digital officer, or like, it is really the agent of change. But along with that, I must say that we've also had some significant progress since 2010. Just imagine if we didn't have this mobile economy. Just think if we didn't have video chat, or 4G, or even good quality broadband connections. Video chat or video communications would not have been possible. So it's not only that the pandemic kind of caused it. Of course, the pandemic expedited the whole process, but we must understand the big role that technology has played. And this is all through a whole bunch of startups and large companies in the technology space, right? If we had only laptops and desktops with bad internet, I don't think we would have the kind of remote work culture that we have today. So really important that we had that technology progress. And the beautiful thing about this is that it's a worldwide phenomenon, right? It's not really about a localized movement. It's a global movement suddenly that's just happened in 1 year. It's exploded in 2020. And it's affected almost every individual in the world. Even if somebody is not somebody who's using the internet and the laptop, or a mobile connection, uh, even they have got affected by the whole phenomenon, by the pandemic. So one of the things we should understand is that this applies to every individual. A lot more to knowledge workers and people who are, let's say, in our space in the tech industry, sales, marketing, and stuff like that. But also maybe to a lot of people outside the white collar jobs. I'll give you an example. If you look at the normal taxi driver in India, maybe in 2010 or 2009, you would not consider that to be an organized workforce. It was really all over. It was unorganized. You had to a lot of issues in booking a cab, in booking a taxi. You'd have to go to the office, or the small kind of workplace of that company, and then you had companies like Ola and Uber that came in. And what that did is it just put an internet connection with a phone in the pockets of the drivers, and it gave an app also to the consumers. And thereby, it took an unorganized market and made it organized. Right? It took a market like taxi drivers and made it into a completely a technology company. And what we saw there was the income of each of those people also kind of went multifold. Right? It was not uncommon to see taxi drivers earning a lakh a month, a lakh and a half a month, probably more. So I think that's the power of what we have seen. You can take an unorganized or so-called low income low income job or low income work and make it really high income. and thereby that leads to a lot of productivity in the whole economy. So a little bit of context around why these things are important, I thought was important, was what I wanted to mention. So the 2020 pandemic expedited the whole thing, technology enabled it, and the beauty is that it's a worldwide phenomenon, and the whole world, every individual will actually benefit from this thing, right? So the second point we go to are actually the 7 benefits, and I'll go one by one. The number one thing to me is a sense of freedom, right? Whenever you are trapped by a particular commute or a journey or a physical location, I think there is always a kind of curb on the freedom, right? And I think when you look at the essence of knowledge work or the essence of remote work, it's very closely aligned to this concept of freedom. And freedom means working when I want to work, working where I want to work, working on the things I want to work on, working with the people I like to work with. And I think all of these things are empowered, or all of these things are have really been uh, improved by remote work. Right? So this is the first point. I would say freedom is a big benefit of remote work. The second, I could have said this at the last. At the end of the day, most companies, individuals, the scorecard by which we are measured is financial. But I want to address this second because I think there are more important things than this, right? So, uh, financial is important, but I think it's important to understand that to me, it occupies this second position here. Uh, Both for employees, for companies, we have seen tremendous benefits. One is that the companies save a lot of money in terms of their whole physical infrastructure, the offices. There's a lot of, I think there was a recent report where Google, I think, saved about 11,000 US dollars every year. And I think that's significant. That's at least minimum of about, you'd say, 10% of an employee's average salary, depending on the numbers, but close to that, right? So that directly impacts also positively as 10%. So that's quite amazing that financially they're able to benefit. Individuals also are benefiting. I think the moment you save commute costs, you also reduce the risk of accidents, and thereby the costs along with that, fuel costs, travel to other places where you today you had to go to Mumbai or you had to go to Delhi to meet somebody. So the whole airfare, hotel costs. I'm not saying that those industries are bad, but these are the kind of benefits that people have drawn. Where today you can do a video call and actually you have the same business benefits. So financially, it's been across the system. It's been a lot more efficient, and cost cutting has been a big benefit of the remote lifestyle. More important than money, I would say, is time. Right? They say time is money. I think sometimes that's a little wrong statement, that time is money. If you ask me, time actually is life. And for those who think time is money, I think they are a little bit. I think they need to change the point of view, because uh, understand that it is only time that helps you make money, right? Even if you have a lot of money, you cannot make time. So it's quite evident that time is probably more important than money. And the moment you are saving, I mean, I'll just talk from my own experience. I've been commuting around Bangalore for the past, I'd say, probably 13 years. And an average commute for me from A to B, that is home to office, uh, irrespective, I mean, suppose I'm going in a non-peak time, you would say it's about 30-35 minutes. And if I'm going in a peak hour traffic, many times it's an hour and a half, right? And I think there are many people who have longer commutes. So just imagine that. Suppose you spend, and that's one way. And so just imagine spending about 2 or 3 hours on a commute, and you're working 8 hours a day, which means 25% of your time is actually wasted. And that's a huge, just imagine having a 25% raise in your income. That would feel a lot better. So, uh, and of course, the opportunity cost, the kind of things that you could have done in that time. So it's a lot more than that. So remote work helps a lot in saving time for all for people. Location. Now, telework or a remote work, one would say by default, what does it mean? It means that you are not limited by a particular location. Now, not only does it help decongestion of cities, like again, I would speak from my experience. Born, brought up here in Bangalore, lived my life, most of my life here. Uh, it's amazing to see the kind of population explosion and thereby the traffic and the whole associated issues. There's a lot of migration towards cities, and one wouldn't blame anybody. I think human nature is that you would seek areas where you have opportunities, and Bangalore has always been the tech capital, and it's really been a bedrock for innovation, uh, in the tech industry in India. So a lot of people do migrate to Bangalore, but of course that leads to issues, and the complaints are endless, right, about Bangalore's traffic, and it's in fact a worldwide joke now. So, but let's get to another big benefit. Uh, I was also in Allahabad when I spent my engineering at the NIT there, and it was always shocking to me to see the lack of opportunity in a place like that. One would agree with me that UP, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, maybe Chhattisgarh, some of these places have really, really poor or low income areas. And when you move from a city like Bangalore and you suddenly go to a village, that disparity really strikes you. It really hits you. And I always used to think, why is it that there's so much of a difference between somebody who's living in a city where there's so much opportunity and such a lack of opportunity in rural areas? Not, I would not say Allahabad is rural, but of course, let's say the non cities or non metro areas. Now, what this allows you to do, a remote lifestyle, is you can actually be anywhere in the world or anywhere in India as long as you have an internet connection. You pretty much have the same opportunities as somebody in a Bangalore or a Mumbai or a Delhi. And I think that's very, very powerful. This is going to enable a lot of young people in India who are not in the cities. And before the remote work revolution, you had to be in that city to even have a chance at growth. And today, by having this democratized, I think it's a huge benefit for the rural public, for young people, for entrepreneurs who want to start companies based out of non-metro locations. This is one of the biggest revolutions ever that's happened, and I think this sometimes goes unnoticed, but the level playing field that's been created by remote work, I think, is a big positive, and definitely I think a lot of people are going to benefit from that. The fifth one, there's so much of talk around sustainability, right? And it is, and rightly so. I think we've, as a society, as human civilization, obviously we have kind of pushed the kind of button on uh, destruction to nature. What remote work enables you to do is that, number one, that the traffic automatically reduces. You also end up with a lot less documentation, so a lot less trees are cut. Uh, you have a lot more sustainable way of living and way you work. I think this is a big step in eco-friendliness, not only at a personal level, but also in terms of industries. The moment you are consuming less of fuels, of fossil fuels, less of industrial stuff like for example, one of the things that I heard is that the denim industry is in a crisis, right? Because everyone's at home and everyone's working at home, so definitely you got to have a reasonable T-shirt or a shirt, but many people wear maybe a shorts or tracks. Not everybody is wearing jeans at home, so the sales of jeans or denim has dipped drastically, which actually means that so much less water has been actually used, so much less industrial work. So it's a very easy and a quick way to get the world back on an eco-friendly kind of setting. Last couple of points. This is point number 6, and I think these two are really, really big, right? So as I ascend towards the importance level, number 6 is what I call better human capital. Now, what I mean by that is, one of the beauties of knowledge work is that it deals with, and typically a knowledge worker is dealing with problems that he has not encountered before. And compared to, let's say, an industrial worker who handled an issue and he's already seen many similar issues before. And I think that's a big difference in the way the economies are built, right? So when you move from an industrial age to, let's say, the knowledge era or the information age, one of the big changes that you will do is the type of work that you're doing. Not only does it depend on repetitive tasks, but are you innovative? Are you creative? Are you able to get new solutions to maybe older problems, or are you able to get new solutions to problems that did not exist? I think that's how the world actually gets better. And better human capital also applies to employers and to companies. Today, companies, because of the, you're not dependent on your particular location, you are able to source talent and capital from across the world at the same kind of at the same level. I think that leads to better organizational capital as well. I think it's a very, very important step in moving the whole human race forward, right? We have to have better quality of work, which happens by better thinking and better human capital. And this really comes down, the whole crux of it comes down to this, the most important, which is better productivity and performance. I think the single biggest thing is, for example, you look at the OKR framework, or one looks at G2D, getting things done. Whatever kind of framework that you may look at, ultimately you need to have some metrics that define that something's better than something else. It's not only qualitative, but ideally you want to have some quantitative ways of doing that. There are multiple sources that tell us that overall the productivity and performance has gone up. People have, companies are able to save a lot of cost. People are getting a lot more innovative. People are getting more independent, which means that the kind of solutions are a lot better. I think both in terms of individual as well as organizational performance, there's a lot of improvements because of the remote lifestyle. It does not come without, there are of course some challenges. There is a sense of isolation. There is a sense of depression with a lot of people. And of course, we are looking to address some of those serious issues. There are also issues, as Vijetha, also was saying, remote sales is a big challenge. How do we meet new people? How do we get new prospects in the pipeline? These are all areas that still need some work, but I think overall it's on the right track. And the last topic today, or the last point that I want to talk about, how can I adopt the remote lifestyle, or how can you adopt the remote lifestyle? There are two things. I think one is you look at your existing situation. Does your job or the kind of work you do enable you to live the remote lifestyle? If it does, that's fantastic. You can think about ways how it can get better. So maybe you can talk to your employer or talk to your organization and see how you can, even though there might be the lifting of the curbs or the lockdown, how can you stay safe and still continue your great work by working from home or working from anywhere? The second option, of course, is to partner with us. So at Vidphone, we are launching a series of initiatives to kind of give opportunity to a lot of people in these areas I spoke about, people outside of metros, also people who are in the metros, people who are looking to do something exciting. There are multiple ways in which they can partner with us, and actually there are clear win-win situations for everybody. So not only can you make money, you can also look at kind of building your own setup, have your own remote business going on. So very, very happy to collaborate and discuss on those lines. So summing up today, one, of course, the context. We've had the rise of remote work because of the pandemic, and significant technology improvements that's enabling people worldwide to adopt remote work and the remote lifestyle. The seven benefits of the remote lifestyle: freedom, financial benefits, save time, location benefits, eco-friendly, better human capital, and overall better productivity and performance. And how does one go and adopt it? I think there is no reason why you should not. We have spoken about all the benefits. Now it's really how can you do that? If your existing situation, things are okay, you can always go ahead and continue that. In case you're looking at something better, you want to have something where you really have a say in the future and you want to help build the future of remote lifestyle, do partner with us and get in touch. So that was my quick kind of mind map, some of my thoughts I wanted to share. I'm happy to exchange some notes and answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jagat. As always, very beautifully illustrated. Makes a lot of sense. Obviously, as a founder, you're living and breathing these challenges every day. And thank you for at least putting the context, because I think it's necessary that as founders, as entrepreneurs, as enablers, the ecosystem, there are challenges. We should not run away from it. But there's so much else happening. So, Jagat, it's 6:55. Within the next 4 minutes, I want to complete my couple of presentations. This will be around the sales playbook and business model campus. And of course, then we open it up for interaction and participants and everyone, right? So without further delay, I am going to start off now.
Sure.
Let me start with the playbook. Okay. So the playbook, ultimately, what do we want to get with this? We want customer loyalty. We want the customers to stay with us. We want them to be with us, give us testimonials, give us more feedback, help us to build a great program. And how can we do that? The first thing is thank your existing customers, potential customers, those who have been supportive to you. Thank them for doing business with you. Always be there when the customers need you. Easier said and done, but because it's a mindset. It's not about Saturday, Sunday. It's not about 8 o'clock in the evening or 7 o'clock in the morning. You got to be there. You can create the best of templates. You can create the best of websites. You can have beautiful emails, but walk the talk. Be around for the customer. Make them feel that you are there for them. Create the wow factor. Delight your customers by being personal. By being personal is know a little bit about them. Know their birthdays. Know what they care about. Send them some very nice reading material once in a while and exceed their expectations. And that is when they will stay with you. So I started with the end in mind, the goal in mind, and then we will move forward. Now, who are these customers of yours? Who are your buyers? What's their persona? You have to dig deep. Who are they? Where are they? What do they do? What do they care about? What is important for them? What kind of careers do they have? Which companies are they working for? What is their age? What is their location? What is their education? And also, Jagat, what kind of customers you don't want? Someone who keeps asking for 101 things, is not going to pay you on time, is not taking any decision to move forward. Avoid them. Okay, I repeat, avoid them, because they'll only bring you down. You will not be adding any value to them, nor will they be helping you in your business. Okay, so stressing on this, your buyer persona, you got to know them. You got to figure out what do they care about. What are their skills? What is their typical day? Who is their boss? What is their success? What is their KPI? What is their KRA? And accordingly, you have to build the solutions. How can you solve their pain point? How can you interact with them? Sales playbook. Why are we doing this? Because we want their loyalty, we want their business, and we want them to stay with us. We want testimonials, we want referrals. So how do you do this? What are the critical elements? Pain points. I want to stress on this. The pain points, understanding those pain points, tailor making your solutions to solving those pain points is the most important thing. Of course, you must know very clearly, as I said, if you don't understand your buyer persona, what is your target market, how big is your addressable market, how can you do if you just got 2 minutes to interact with them? What is your elevator pitch going to be? What's your key messaging going to be? Do you understand why are they buying or they might buy in the future from competition? All right. What is again? It comes down to what is the competition doing better than you beyond price. So coming to the value proposition and countering the objections why they do not want to buy from you. So obviously it's about why us. What is the way? We have references, we have case studies, we have already solved this problem for many esteemed customers, and these are the people. Why don't you do a reference check with them? Correct? So these are simple things. We have to walk the talk. We have to be ready to understand and ask the questions so that we really get the pain points and how can we solve the pain points. You must know your target market. You must understand competition. You have to prepare and dig deep again and again to your buyer persona. If you want, I just go back here. Your buyer persona, very important. Sales book, all about success, all about growth, because you want their loyalty, you want their referrals, you want their business. And it's not just to create a sales book, right? You got to understand who's my ideal customer, who's my audience, what is the strategy, what are the practices, what are the tactics, how do I handle it, what is the stories that I'm going to tell, what are the questions that I'll have to handle, what are the ways the conversation will go. Show and tell. It's not just to say do this way. You got to have your graphics, you got to have your videos, you got to ideate, you got to solve any questions that even comes from your sales team. Okay. And this is something, Jagat, I see your beautiful whiteboard at the back. Always you're doing something around that, right? The outline, just summarizing everything, the content, the sales tools, who are your customers, what are the expected metrics, like how much sales per day you want, how many customers is your sales team supposed to talk to, what is your funnel, what is your engagement model, what are your collaterals, what is your marketing campaign, what is your email templates, how are you going to make sure that the deal gets signed and the MOUs come in, how do you make sure that the agreement happens, the MOUs get signed. That's ultimately what you have to achieve, not just that I'm selling, I'm talking, I've sent mails. That's not what matters, right? Ultimately you want them as paying customers, profitable paying customers. What should you include in a sales playbook? Your company values, your background, who's your typical customer and what do they need, what is the process, what is the messaging that you're going to sell, how are you going to do it, and of course you better have very very clearly illustrated company rules and your compensation. Otherwise people will say, oh, I'm doing all the hard work but I'm not getting compensated. Salespeople are important, they are always in demand, so take care of a team. And the last one, it's about the coaching, again about the sales playbook, a summary. You're talking about target customers and buyer personas. You must have very nicely illustrated email templates. You must know about the competition. How are you going to sell? What is your sales team's roles and responsibilities? Basics, but you've got to have this in front of you day in, day out, and focus. With that, I'm going to stop this presentation and very quickly I'm going to move to the next one, and that's about the business canvas models. I know we're slightly ahead of time or behind time, but let's do this.
Definitely. I think always good to share knowledge. Please go ahead.
I'll keep it crisp, Checker, because again, I would encourage people that if you're comfortable taking screenshots, you can visit Vidphone back. So the business canvas model, okay, the key partners, key activities, value propositions, customer segments, channels, revenue. How are you going to get more customers to pay? How do you want them to pay? And all these kind of things, right? The subscription fees that you want, which are the channels that you're going to use, and you must know your cost. It's not just about doing top line. You should not lose money. You must be profitable, correct? Just bringing a few, again, please take the screenshots, absolutely no problem. Talking about some of the largest companies in the world, LinkedIn. What is the value that they give? What kind of relationships are they sustaining? How do they use channels, right? They have websites, they have mobile apps. Who are their customers? So you have developers, you have students, you have internet users, you have recruiters. All of them are customers. How do they make money? Ultimately they make money, they spend money as well, they have costs. And of course the platform is so wonderful, we all use it and we use it as smartly as we can. Twitter, whatever you say, they're growing, they're doing some wonderful stuff, and they have some really, I mean, all of us love using Twitter. It's an influencer platform. It's a great source for up-to-date news. We are understanding what's happening across the world thanks to Twitter. So it's not too bad, right? And of course, how do they make money? Promoted tweets, promoted accounts, analytics, etc. Quora, a great one, right? Great resource once again. You must get into it. They have some beautiful ways of consuming content, and you can get a lot of knowledge from Quora. Uber, Ola, they're growing, they're struggling, they're fighting it out. The pandemic has not been kind to them, and during the before time, whenever the price multiplier is to come, we should not be happy with this. But whatever said and done, they have created an impact, isn't it? They've solved a lot of problems for business travelers, for people who love to go out on weekends and party. I'm sure the time will come back. And just for short meetings, you don't want to ride, you don't want to. It's raining, but you get an Uber or you get an Ola. Isn't it wonderful? Makes sense, doesn't it? To use it, someone solved a problem. Of course, Amazon, books, logistics, Amazon Prime, OTT, you name it, they're there. That's why I said expanding plus plus. Okay, there's so much that they're doing, and yes, their competition, they're good, they're bad. We don't argue about that. But what can you learn from Amazon? Day one, every day, relentless. figuring out and creating newer marketing, customer segments, building fantastic, whatever said and done, we buy from them. They're very good, isn't it? The convenience, the delivery, the way they react, the way they optimize the service, fantastic stuff. Let's learn from them. And with this, Jagat, I'm going to stop. And it's 7:05. Screen stop presenting.
Fantastic. That
And
was
I've also enabled the raise hand
yes.
if anyone wants to come in. But I think today we covered a lot of ground, and I would request all the audience to go back to the Vidphone website and learn from all these things. So,
We
what else do
repeat.
we have in store for us, Akil and Jagat?
Akhil, what about you? What are your thoughts? So this week, what are some updates?
This week, we spoke about a little bit about WebSockets this week, and then next week we're planning about Angular or maybe something related to Angular, Cordova, and that direction next week.
So that will do with some mobile app development.
Yes.
I think quite interesting. And Angular, of course, is also web, but
Yeah.
let's see. I think we'll keep something as a bit of a surprise for next week also. But I think around application development, how can you build out? So fantastic, great, Akhil. Thanks for all your inputs today.
I think there was a question.
Yes, I think Jayesh. So Jayesh, firstly, glad to have you. Feel free to use the raise hand option. You can just click on that and you can get into a call with us. We'd love to hear about your business and also to share some notes. So if you're coming in, would be great to have you on raise hand. Else anyway, I'll just take his question. So just for the audience, so this is the question. What Jayesh is saying is that for a smaller organization like us, how do we track employees' work, as any customized tracking is super expensive? It's a big problem. For most people today, that is one of the biggest challenges. You want to be able to track and monitor or be able to be in touch with your people, but you don't want to cross the line and seem like you're actually surveillance or something like this. So you can just click on that raise hand button, Jayesh, on the dock. It would be wonderful to have you with us. Anyway, so just answering Jayesh, we at Vidphone, of course, if you sign up, I mean, I'm not doing direct sales, but this is one of the things that we address very specifically. So what I'll do is just share my screen very, very quickly. Once you log into Vidphone, you go to vidphone.me, go to our website, right? And the moment you're able to sign up, you can just sign up, create an account. You will come to something like a dashboard. So we have what's called the virtual office here. So when you click on this virtual office, one of the beauties is you can pretty much see all your people sitting right there in your office, right? So it might be also your shop. You could also, have a kind of showroom that people, you may want customers or your people to visit. So very much like this, you have an interface where you can sit with your own people. You also have a storefront, which is also available to you. For details, we're happy to take this offline, happy to have a chat on what it is. So thanks, Akil, for joining in also. Unable, okay. Jayesh is telling me he's unable to find the raise hand.
So there's a small button right next to the chat column, to the right or left of it. It's called raise hand. At the bottom of
No
the
worries.
screen.
Yeah, I think also we have crossed our time today. We generally don't cross our 7 o'clock on Sundays because everyone needs to have a bit of a Sunday evening as well, including Chief Vijetha and Akil. I know the amount of work you guys put in is quite amazing and very, very inspirational for me to be able to be in touch with you guys so often and work so hard at what we do, right? So Vijetha, any other parting notes? Else probably we can just
It's
call
all
it
good,
call
all
it an
good,
evening.
Jagat. All good. Thank you. I think Akil has done a lot of preparatory work. So, I
Yes.
mean, we just busy.
Very good.
And
Very
Sunday
nice.
evenings and family time, you got to take your personal time off and recreate the energy for the next week. It's relentless, isn't it, as founders? But thank you, Jagat, for giving this platform. Let's do our best for the ecosystem and community, and of course, all the best to you because you are out there day in day out fighting it out. Jayesh, thank you for saying hi, or is it a hi? I'm not too sure. Raise hand. But thank you, Jayesh, and hope we can help you and Shravan and Uni and all the wonderful folks who have joined us in. Stay active on the Founders Feed group because we'll keep adding a lot of resources and insights. Jagat and Akil will not stop doing that. And I think we need to up the tempo, isn't it? We got to create more and more of these kind of knowledge sharing sessions.
Yes.
We'll work on that. I really liked what we did yesterday, Jagat, sharing about books, resources. That's important also for the ecosystem and community. And thank you so much, Akil and Jagat. This has been a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Likewise, have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Take care. Be
Thank
safe.
you.
Sleep
Bye.
well. Bye bye,
Yes,
everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.